Center the L-arm assembly on the lift, measuring from the outside L-arm ring to the end of the L-arm. Make sure that the distance is the same, assuring that the assembly is centered. Insert the square hole bushings in the inside and outside L-arm rings as shown. You can use the stop ring to set the bushings in place. Then set the stop rings firmly against the bushing and tighten. Complete this process for all L-arms on the lift. Now, install the bunk riser plates on the center channels, 2 to each channel as shown. The bolts are inserted as shown and will be tightened later. Hardware is found in the number 3 and number 12 bags. Note that it's helpful to know the hull dimensions of the boat. This can easily be found by measuring the hull while the boat is on the trailer. Next, attach the bunk riser angles and clips. The angles are designed so they can be used on either the right or left side. In most cases, 2 holes of the riser angle are showing above the bunk riser plate. The angle can be adjusted based on the draft of the boat. Leave the bolts loose at this time. Next, install the bunk riser clips on the opposite side or inside of the lift. This procedure is done on the front and rear of the lift. Leave the hardware loose at this point. Now, lift the bunks into place with the 4 tabs facing the outside of the lift. Install the bolts as shown from the number 12 hardware bag. Do not tighten any of the bolts until all hardware is in place. Once the bunks are mounted in place, install the bunk brace angles by attaching them to the bunk riser clip and the appropriate tab on the bunk as shown. Repeat this process in all 4 locations. Once this step is complete, tighten all hardware. Mount the pitmans on the L-arms as shown. Note that the pitman bunks are offset slightly toward the center of the lift. Tighten all hardware. Install nipple caps on each of the tank hose nipples, fastening the hose clamp tightly. Now, measure the distance between the rear tank and the forward tank at the location of the nipples. Cut a section of rubber hose to match this length, less a couple of inches, and then cut this piece in half. Mount a T-coupler between the 2 sections as shown. Slide hose clamps onto the hose sections and mount to the nipples on the 2 tanks. Secure the clamps tightly with the T-coupler facing toward the inside of the lift. Repeat this process on the other side of the lift between the forward and rear tanks. Cut a section of hose measuring approximately 18 inches. Insert a T-coupler in one end and mount the opposite end to the center tank nipple. Calculate the distance from the side hose assemblies to the center tank, allowing for a little extra slack in the hose. In this case, it's about 42 inches. Now connect the center tank hoses to the side tank hose assemblies. The tanks are now connected. At the front of the lift, connect a section of hose to each of the remaining tank nipples. These hoses will be cut to size during lift installation at the dock site. The two outside fittings on the pump supply air to the tanks, while the larger brass fitting is the exhaust line to expel air from the tanks. Now, attach two sections of chain to the L-arms as shown. The ShoreMaster floating lift is now ready for transportation and installation into the slip. The installation process will be demonstrated using a ShoreMaster Galva Foam lift. Installation steps for these floating lifts are essentially the same.